In this case, the iris-sutured IOL is partially displaced. Other indications for iris-fixed IOL removal include chronic iritis, recurrent hyphema, or cystoid macular edema. Here we've opened the conjunctiva and set up 3-port vitrectomy. We remove the anterior hyaloid and do pars plana vitrectomy to prepare for lens removal and exchange. We now make a couple of 1 mm anterior chamber paracentesis incisions for manipulating the lens in the AC. The free-hanging displaced haptic is grabbed and brought into the anterior chamber. Let's now take a minute to discuss the anatomy of the lens position and the strategy for removing it. The lens should be sitting just behind the pupil, and the haptics are fixed to the iris with loops of suture. One obvious way of removing the lens is to cut the iris suture from the anterior side using scissors or the vitrector. The induced iris trauma risks hyphema, and this method also risks losing control of the haptic and dropping the lens to the back of the eye. Recognize that the haptics are held by suture loops, and the lens may be freed from the eye by pulling on these haptics in a way that frees them from the suture loop without inducing further iris trauma. Here we see bimanual manipulation of the lens with intraocular forceps. Once the optic is moved enough to see the proximal haptic, the haptic is grabbed and withdrawn while the other forcep helps in stabilization. The lens is then centered in a stable position over the iris while the surgeon plans his or her next move. This may be scleral fixation of the same lens, lens exchange, or lens removal. Thank you for watching.